the USGS and the California Seismic Commission. I'm going to, I guess, yeah. All right, there you go, Larry. So this is from the city. Okay, Ellie.
Get a good picture.
Sorry, I was getting more.
That's okay. Congratulations. Where were you when the shakeout happened?
Laying out in my floor.
There you go. That's the right idea. That's a good answer. Okay. I'm going to take about 10 minutes of your time here to discuss what we're planning to do for the El Nino event that is already upon us. As soon as I get my glasses on. I'm going to talk about, you can kick the, there you go. Give me the next slide. We're going to talk about the history and predictions for El Nino. We'll talk about the review of past potential and actual flood sites within the city that we've kind of had a brainstorming session about where those are. We're going to talk about the flood response partners that Signal Hill has, the flooding mitigation and response resources, most importantly, individual preparedness, what we can all do to make sure that we're as resilient as possible during what is surely due to come, and then some additional information. So, next slide. What's past is prologue. In 1851, 1852, 1861 to 62, and 1871 to 72, there were significant flooding events in California. These were largely the result of atmospheric rivers. The 61-62 event was in fact what we now know as an arc storm. It rained for approximately 81 days straight. Much of the state was covered in up to 10 feet of water. Most of the 10-foot depths were in Southern California, in Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County, and San Diego counties. Livestock was just decimated. The water stayed for approximately 3 weeks at its 10-foot depth. And recall, well, nobody recalls, but back then there were no flood control channels. Maybe Larry recalls.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. I am a temporary employee. The rains and flooding of the 61-62 were closely followed, it should be noted, by the Great Drought of 1862 to 1865. So, like I said, what's past is prologue. Next one. El Nino is definitely here. You can see it there. That's a enhanced thermograph of this particular hemisphere. It's actually been in effect since March of this year. El Nino is really a warming of the eastern and western Pacific waters, down to about 300 feet in depth. Normally those waters are warmest on the western side of the Pacific, and the trade winds flow from off of the North American continent toward Asia. When we get an El Nino, that process reverses. We wind up with a warming trend in the eastern Pacific, and as you can see, it usually winds up abutting South America. You can also see there that there is a significant bloom. The ocean, NOAA is calling that the blob. That is a chunk of water that's running right up to the coast of California, and that indicates about a 5-degree rise in surface temperature. We have never seen that kind of rise in modern times. Next one. Pacific Ocean water temperature. This particular thermograph, you can see again on the top one, rather intense blob of water against South America. And down there below, you see almost the entire coast of California. It's a 5-degree rise, okay? The property of water, when it gets heated, is it expands. So what we're looking at here, that little graph on the right, the black tracer actually is this year's rise in sea level. We're actually up now to about a little over half a foot of sea level rise. Next. What you can see here, this is the king tide charts for November and December. Actually, I saw in the paper today the king tide is actually here. We're seeing a prediction from NOAA. There's a flood warning out for the coastal cities in Los Angeles County and a flood advisory out for Orange County. Because of this rise, we get a king tide, which is actually an astronomical high tide. It's where the sun and the moon are exerting the greatest influence on the Earth's tides. That coupled with the expansion in the water, the rise in level there, and imagine if we had a rainstorm to deal with too. This all combines to make it a pretty nasty event. You can see here that the length of the king tide runs into the Thanksgiving Day or Thanksgiving holiday. The next one, which is going to be the most intense of the cycle, is due to hit us during Christmas. Next slide, please. This is actually the 1997 El Nino event on the Sacramento and San Jose confluence. That is a levee that's being overtopped by wind and water as a result of a king tide, the heating of the surface water and wind, and the outstanding rainfall that we had then. I think we had over 31 inches of rain during that El Nino. Next. This actually was in October at the Embarcadero. You can see that the water, you can see in the background there, the water beginning to lap up and over. This was a king tide in October that began to flood the Embarcadero and the regions around San Francisco. Next slide. I keep getting asked by a lot of my colleagues in the department about when this is going to happen. You can see that dotted line there. If you follow under the peak of the graph, follow that down. November, December, and January is when we see the peaks of this. The two complete curves are the 82-83 El Nino and the 97-98 El Nino. You can see that we're on the rise here with an incomplete graph to the left, moving up and on a par as NOAA and the Climate Prediction Center on a par with 97 to be a significantly wet El Nino. I should point out that El Nino does not mean storms. El Nino means sea temperature. The storms associated with that get drawn in because of the sea temperature. Hot water is rocket fuel to these storms. And if we do get the right confluence of stuff, we wind up with either a Pineapple Express, which we're all familiar with, or something much worse, like an arc storm. Roll it again, Cap. The predicted weather patterns for 2015 and 16, you can see the jet stream, how the jet stream has moved. We look down there at the bottom where we see a wetter component in the south, and up north, a drier component. But the 40 to 60% increase in atmospheric water is going to occur in Southern California. And it's going to occur November, December, January, January, March, April, and April, May, June. It's going to go that deep. The next slide, again, is for November, December, January. You can see this is not going to fix the drought. One thing we do know about this is that this particular El Nino, you can see we have much warmer temperatures in the north part of the state. What fixes the drought is heavy snowfall. We get 40% of our water and our refilling capacity in our reservoirs from snowfall. And they're not really expecting, or they weren't up until today, weren't really expecting a lot of snow up there. But Mammoth, I think, is getting about a foot right now from this storm. Don't all head for the door with your skis. The seasonal precipitation outlook, you can see, continues through January. And the next one, Cap. there's our predictions. The 82-83 storm, we had over 33 inches of rain in about 60 days. That was a lot of rain. The 97-98 El Nino, I was at California State University Long Beach during that one, and we actually had 4 feet of water on Atherton. And much of the lower campus, the buildings and the basements were full of water for that one. That had 30 inches of water. Nobody really knows where we're going with this. We really haven't had any rain yet, have we? But it's coming. We know that graph showed us November, December, January is when the kickstart for this particular event is going to happen. The next one, we're going to have a review of actual flood sites within Signal Hill. Roll it one more. This is our emergency response map that we use in the Emergency Operations Center. We kind of brainstormed this during a briefing by Los Angeles County and some anecdotal information from the watch officers and other citizens, residents. The intersection of Walnut and 33rd. The interesting thing there is that there's a sign at the intersection of Walnut and 33rd that says, warning, flooded. And that's stuck right in the ground. In Signal Hill, we call that a clue. Las Brisas over there on the left side in the shaded area is a traditional site for a lot of heavy water flow. The dead end of Lewis, south of Burnett, the south side of Burnett and east of California Avenue, all of that. Over here in the center, the other shaded spot, the hilltop area, which we'll talk about in a minute, but that has, it goes both ways. We have a lot of exposure from our slopes that don't really have a lot of erosion or didn't have a lot of erosion control on it until yesterday morning. So we're concerned there. These are areas that we're looking at. I want to emphasize with this that these are not the only areas, and we're looking at the whole city. Public Works has done a marvelous job with figuring out staging and getting with our partners, our response partners, but these are not the only sites. These are just some of the ones we're looking at. Roll it again. Here, one more, Cap. That top photo is actually a blowout on the slope above Camelback and near the top of the hill. We noticed that about 3 weeks ago when I was talking with Public Works about some of the things we might be wanting to do. The bottom photo happened 2 days ago. That's Signal Hill Petroleum's erosion control people coming in and setting up that entire slope all the way around Camelback now looks like this. There are other sites in the city that they have completed and other sites that they're moving into. But with this kind of pre-planning and response ahead of things, I think, I don't want to say we're in good shape because that sounds too much like the guy driving the Titanic, but it looks like we do have things, we have things under control. The next slide, emergency mitigation response. These are things that Signal Hill Public Works is doing. They've already started clearing the stormwater catch basins citywide. The effort is ongoing. It's going to happen monthly and even more often if required. Coordination with our flood response partners in the city of Long Beach and Los Angeles County. Those departments work very closely together anyway. Now they're working almost daily together, talking. There's another meeting I guess you guys are going to in a couple of weeks, a strategy meeting. We have a lot more, well, I'll let them talk about that. We have a lot more backup than we thought we had. Meeting with Signal Hill Petroleum to discuss and review their mitigation. The results of that was Public Works, meeting with Signal Hill Petroleum, and now we see the results of that with those flood control measures already in place. Assigning contractors to install erosion control measures in specific city lots. All that stuff, our third-party contractors are going to be helping us. Public Works also is improving their emergency communications. The department was able to provide them with additional two-way radios working on an open frequency. They have those set up, and then they have their staffing set to the point where we can fairly well be assured that we have 24/7 coverage if we need it. Next slide, sandbag distribution. The city owns a sandbag machine, and actually that's pretty rare for a city this size, for a city of any size. But you can pick up to 10 sandbags, any resident in the city, right now, during business hours, 7:30 to 3 at the Public Works yard on 28th Street. We may be adding an additional location if we need to, if the storm activities mandate that. Maybe down here at City Hall or some other place. They'll decide that. Sandbag distribution sites and availability will be updated regularly during this, okay? One more. So this is Sandbag 101. When you get sandbags, remember this: the bag should only be filled about a third to half full. Now, the city is going to have pre-filled bags for us, but if you are getting additional bags and filling them yourself, a third to half full. One sandbag, 14 inch by 26 inches, weighs 30 pounds, okay? 30 half-full bags weighs approximately a half ton. So that means if you show up in your half-ton pickup truck to pick up 30 sandbags, you're going to be driving a little high on the way home. It's best to acquire the sandbags and all these supplies that you might need before it starts to rain, okay? And you can see we want to stack in a pyramid. We want overlapping. When you lay a bag down, prompt on it a little bit to flatten it out to make sure it's making good contact with whatever it's sitting on. You definitely don't want to stack it like on the left where you've got gaps and everything else. That's just not going to work. Down on the lower portion, you can see it's like an overlap. We're building a pyramid. I think I saw on Washington State site, it takes about 600 sandbags to make a 100-foot lineal run, two bags high. So that's a lot of sandbags. We're not likely to need that, but just saying. Okay, one more and one more. What should you do? Individual preparedness. Stay aware of the weather predictions. Pay attention to the radio. Maintain situational awareness. Know what's going on. Don't let it sneak up on you. If you have a NOAA weather radio, make certain that it has fresh batteries and listen to it. A NOAA weather radio, you can get a little handheld radio for about $15 at, it used to be Radio Shack. Now it would be Walmart has them. Follow the National Weather Service on social media and the web. Listen to local media on TV and radio. Follow local agency postings on Twitter, Facebook, and Nixle. Show of hands. Who's signed up for Nixle in this room? Okay. Those of you who haven't stuck your hand up, you might think about that. And make sure you just add you want the notifications from the city of Signal Hill. That we will be pushing information out through that, as will the county sheriff. So Twitter, Facebook, and Nixle. Get advance notice when larger storms are expected. Prepare and take action. Improve drainage and all those things you need to do around your house. Clear your gutters out. Make sure that your storm drain infalls near your property are operational. Check your emergency kits. Make sure you have flood insurance. I'll tell you, I don't live in the city. Signal Hill is pretty safe. Hill, we will be a depositor, not a receiver. But I live in Long Beach behind the university, and I decided that I needed flood insurance for this one event. So I'm going to carry it through the rainy season. Make sure you check those emergency kits. Prepare for evacuation of flooded areas. Pay attention to warning notifications. Whatever somebody is telling you on the radio is probably the truth for this event. One more over, prepare an emergency kit. You should have an emergency kit ready, and this is an all hazards kit. You should have this kit whether we're worried about El Nino or the big one or the comet or the zombie apocalypse. You should have this emergency kit, one that could be picked up and taken with them if your evacuation is necessary. I should tell you that at the lake fire up north, the residents up there were doing fine. They went from a complete sense of well-being to having to evacuate in 8 minutes. 8 minutes. You think you can leave your house in 8 minutes with everything you need? Think again. Think now about what you need. Every member of the family should have a kit specific for them. Don't forget pets. Make sure that if you have pets, four-legged friends or birds, you've got cages for them, carriers for them. You have their medical records, their veterinary records. Pre-plan this with a veterinary shelter somewhere. The city of Long Beach actually will be taking animals if they have to evacuate at their city shelter. So you might want to just pre-plan that. Contents of a kit are personal. I've got a little graphic on the side there, but you can get all this stuff at ready.gov, and I have some resources at the end of this. Evacuation and personal vehicle awareness. Here's a deal I got from World War II. Never let your gas gauge go below half full. Half full is the new empty. Keep it half full. It's fairly easy to do now that the gas is, I don't want to say cheap, but less expensive than it used to be. Installed new windshield wipers now. Also windshield washer fluid if your car is equipped with that. Ensure that all your headlights, taillights, and turn indicators are operational. Ensure that tires are properly inflated and have serviceable tread. The vehicle should contain a car emergency kit to go along with the kit you're taking with you. Turn around, don't drown. If you have to drive through water that you can't see the bottom of, you should not be driving through it. The recommendation from FEMA and from other emergency response agencies, including Cal OES, is 1 foot. What's 1 foot? Well, 1 foot is what you say 1 foot is. If it looks too deep, don't drive through it. If your tires begin to disappear as you're going in, back off, okay? Additional resources. These are the websites that you can use. The storms.ca.gov is where a lot of these graphics